Peace and love, you guys. Salute, salute, salute to all my good people. Been a little minute, but I am back. Yes, yes, the goddess has returned. A lot of things to cover, you guys. A lot to divulge here with you. First of all, I hope everybody is well. And yeah, let's get into some boxing talk, y'all. Yo, real talk this past week has been wild, you guys. And I've been peeping the scenes, took a little breather to peep what's going on. A lot of what's been unfolding has been so nonsensical to me on one hand that I just felt there are too many things for me that I find comical that I didn't find necessary to speak on, but of course there were other things that I had to process, in order to gather up a good analysis for you guys. And those are the things that we're going to touch on today. I'm sure you guys have been peeping game. A lot has been going on. And I must say that pretty much boxing has been in a whirlwind, okay, of everything from call outs to surprise comebacks, right? Which we're going to get into. We've seen claims of people being overrated over the past week, and we've seen a whole heap of dramatic reactions across the boxing world. Okay. And I'm going to attempt to cover as much ground as I can on some of the fundamental things that I have been noticing. A lot of things have been unfolding before our eyes. As I said, you guys, a lot to cover here. I'm going to try to keep it together and keep it concise for us. We saw fights, of course, from Boots Ennis, Abdullah Mason. We saw Bam Rodriguez. Shout out to those brothers. We also saw, of course, Keyshawn Davis. Much has been generating around the particular performances of Keyshawn and Boots, however, okay? And also, among the things that I've been noticing, it's the sense of an odd preciousness that has been seeping across and within the boxing world as a whole, you guys. What's going on with this preciousness? Why is everybody so precious? Lots of sensitivity, lots of frail, delicate emotions out here in these boxing streets that I have been seeing. And we're going to get into all of that for show. Now, firstly, let's just jump right in. Let's tap into Boots Ennis and his highly controversial fight, I must say, against Karen, right? A lot to touch on here, but to be as succinct as possible, I guess I'll start with this. Honestly, you guys, I had no real qualm with the victory of Boots Ennis. Okay, to me, he won convincingly, he won clearly, and dare I say dominantly, despite a lot of the discourse that you see going around right now. Okay, I thought he won dominantly. Okay, the boxing world has been in a buzz regarding this man, and I really don't see a plausible, sound reason as to why people are going so hard on Boots. I mean, I understand some of the points that are mentioned, but as far as, the way in which he's being castigated, that is what I do not understand. I find it quite dramatic and hyperbolic, if I'm going to be completely honest. Okay, the criticisms that I have been coming across. And earlier this week, I spoke with the King Champside about this on his panel, along with some other brothers who joined the call that particular day. To me, Karen, of course, put up an absolutely great fight. And I believe that because it was to the surprise of many onlookers that Karen would step into Boots the way that he did in this fight, as compared to when they had fought previously, I think it's to this that people's reaction and expectation of Boots is finding itself within a compromised position, right? That I think it's to the surprise of the onlookers that Karen was able to adjust his game plan to meet Boots in a competitive matchup that left people a bit confused and shocked. People tend to have a super imposition placed on the expectations of the fighters, and they seem to have an over-the-top expectancy of the fighters to show up and to show up beautifully, show up with the cape wrapped around them and long and blowing in the wind as they float high above all the competition, high above all the challenges. But, in reality, these men are men. They are not comic book characters, as I've said many times. And, they're going to have to go through the trenches in particular fights, even against people who we surmise, should be easy food for them, easy competition for them. No, there are times where, they're going to have to go through the trenches and muddle through. And this was a particular instance where Boots faced particular challenges, some of which were challenges that could have possibly been avoided had he had a better defensive game that particular night, but were challenges nonetheless because Karen showed up prepared and much more aggressive and assertive in his style and approach than he was in the previous matchup. So this is what kind of brought the challenge on, and pretty much for the whole night, the two men were going toe-to-toe in high velocity, high exchange, high rate performance. And, I enjoyed it. The warriorship was on deck. It was a clash of the wills. Who was going to supersede, the will of the other? Karen absolutely showed that he's a warrior. He showed and he proved that he came to win, as he should have, and his team did what many boxers fail to do, as we've seen, us boxing fans who see the tail of the tape, which is to come to the rematch with a completely different style and approach, to effectively pressure your opponent as much as possible. And, that's exactly what Karen did. He switched it up for this particular battle, and he was adamant about not taking flight the way that he did in the previous matchup. And, not only did he remain on the front foot the entire night, but he was effective with his aggressive energy throughout the fight. He kept up the pace, and he was as immovable as he thought he could be in that moment, and he showed up. You know what I mean? Karen was like, I'm here to take the head of the king. That's what I'm here to do. Credit to that man. You know what I'm saying? I think this is what had people shocked. Now, as far as Boots is concerned, he was also extremely active and aggressive in that fight. A majority of this fight, you guys, was had completely in the pocket. There was virtually no distance between them. Okay, everything was close range, toe-to-toe action and exchange between these two men. Boots solidified and made it clear that regardless of Karen's aggression and output, nothing that Karen was going to do was going to move him. He established that, okay? He already made it known. Listen, I don't give a fuck what you throw at me, left hook or not. I am right here in front of you, and we're going to get this work. It was high action, you guys. Boots didn't give a damn, y'all. You hear me? He said you could throw the kitchen sink, you could throw the bathtub, you could throw the pots, the oven, the TV, the stove. I ain't goddamn moving. Heart was everywhere. I think people may have been expecting, some finesse, some, grace, you know what I'm saying? Some boxing, some, discipline and, lenient energy type of thing. It was not happening in this particular fight. If that's what you were expecting, then yes, you were highly disappointed, because it was exactly the opposite of that between these two men. There was no grace. There was no leniency. There was no let up. Okay. They were going for blows. Boots kept up the fight pretty well, I guess, considering all the haymakers that he was throwing and the combinations that he was throwing. That man was throwing from his hip, from his back, from his foot. Jesus. Though, of course, in the later rounds, you could see, of course, signs of, fatigue from Boots. But that man was whipping feet. You hear me? Boots was intent on stopping Karen. And sure enough, if you guys recall, in the fifth round, he actually managed to get Karen to take a knee from all the pressure that he was giving. So it was definitely on site. That's what it looked like to me. It's on site. And of course, again, I think because Boots was so intransigent and unyielding in his aggressive approach to Karen, he was getting rocked with some major shots, you guys. That's something that, of course, everybody noticed. And I believe that it was even in the second round that Karen caught him with a hook that stumbled Boots off balance, which we have never seen. How crazy. When I say this fight was wild, probably for all the wrong reasons as people are speculating, but it was still high energy, and it really kept one on their toes. Now, of course, nobody, in the world expected to see Boots get a little stumbled or whatever, but, Boots nonetheless was still, even after that, he was still unwilling to halt, to yield in any particular way, to adjust in any particular way. He just kept motherfucking coming. And that damn left hook was pretty much Karen's money shot for much of that fight, okay? Because it seemed that Karen was able to land that left hook at will on Boots. But, Boots was just eating them shits like fucking hotcakes. It just is what it is. He kept coming forward, unrelenting with the pressure. And that's it. It was just what it was. I think this was definitely to the surprise of many, but sometimes it really does get like that. The heat of battle does not always, obtain finesse within it, as I mentioned. Sometimes it's thick, sometimes it's rugged and greasy, and you got to chop down stubborn ash trees until they fall. It's just some things happen like that. So many people across social media were very precious about Boots' performance, as if they wanted to see a ballet dance. And Boots, it just wasn't happening. Did Boots leave himself open? Yes, he did. Should Boots have made better adjustments and, returned at particular moments strictly to boxing? Perhaps. Was he getting hit with crazy punches left and right? And did he fail to keep his hands up? Absolutely. But he wanted the smoke. There's nothing else I could say to that. There's no other explanation. He wanted the smoke, so he set the fire to get the smoke. Now, I know on the analysis side, of course, there are major things that he can take away from this particular fight that he and Bozy can both learn and develop from, moving forward. A lot of criticism was had for Bozy's lack of corner direction. A lot of people felt that he let Boots down by not giving enough weight to his information, not directing him properly or in any effective way. Many people felt that he simply saying, get him out of there, was insufficient. A lot of people were uneasy about that, because they felt that, simply having Boots charging in for the kill is reckless. So, a lot of dynamic opinions about that were circulating and still are. But all in all, I really enjoyed the fight and Boots dominated, even despite Karen's output and persistence. That's just the reality of what it was that I saw. I'm definitely sure, it was pretty evident to me that during the post-fight interview, he felt a little bit embarrassed, if you will. He kind of showed pink a little bit about his performance. You can tell, even though he didn't really say it outright, his immediate reaction was that maybe it's possibly time for him to move up, because I'm sure that he felt, as it was happening, of course, nobody would know better than him, the things that he would have liked to do in place of what was actually done. So I'm sure that he is very critical of himself and that he intends to implement whatever is necessary for him to have a better performance, whatever that's going to be next for him. But yeah, that's part and parcel to the game. The fighter is expected to be critical of themselves. What was, crazy to me is the fanfare around, this kind of hyper criticism about his performance from the fans as if he lost. That's what I do not, concur with at all. I felt like the criticism was heavy handed on the part of the fans, and mind you, from the same fans who, will call Shakur Stevenson boring, for being, extra evasive and strictly sticking to his boxing throughout a performance, but now want to turn around and, castigate Boots for being highly competitive, highly aggressive, highly active in his fight. It's just wild to me, the dynamic of that. That particular stance, just exemplified the preciousness, that I spoke about a little bit earlier, of boxing fans that seem to lean unevenly towards particular fighters when it comes to these standards. Okay. Any other time a fighter, goes toe to toe with an opponent, they're going to be heralded as warriors. Oh, look at the gleaming lion. Yes, he is thrashing in the fields for his prey. Oh my God. Yes. He's going to take his prey down. Look how his prey is fighting back. Yes, but he triumphs over his prey. Look at the warrior. Look at the lion, right? Did anybody have an issue, for example, about the competitive exchange between old Timmy Zoo and Fondora? I heard no complaints about the nature of that particular fight, even though they both had to go in the trenches, bloodied up and all, right? But here's Boots winning his fight dominantly, in my view, but facing an opponent that was on equal smoke time. Karen was on demon time. And all of a sudden, because he has an exchange in a competitive matchup, Boots is now problematic as a fighter. It's just, the partisan is absolutely blatant in this instance. I really do think it's inequitable and misguided, that particular stance that I've been coming across. And earlier this week, we also even heard Sean Porter come out on his podcast saying with the headline that Boots is overrated. It's like, what? Overrated? Child? Mm-mm. So he stated that, basically he kind of clarified it within the podcast itself. And he stated that, he really means to say that he thinks that people prematurely placed Boots pretty much in a top position without having seen him traverse, through adversity amongst elite competitors. And he felt that maybe Boots had been deemed, the top of the hill, king of the hill, too early. And, I think that makes for an interesting, point of reference and a basis of discussion, because as we know, Boots is, still building up his resume, even though he's got 30 plus fights or something like that. He still has yet to really add the top names to his resume. Of course, now that EJ and Bud are out of the division and have moved up, of course, that leaves names like Barrios and whatever have you that we are still awaiting to see him and do battle with. So I thought that was a really interesting point from Sean Porter. Also, I think Sean made a valid point about the state of inactivity in boxing and how Boots seems to be doing a lot of training for far too long of a period without actually securing enough, actual fights. And I certainly agree that he should be having high-level fights as consistently as possible, because if you guys recall, Boots left his previous promotional company due to a severe level of inactivity. So we'll see what happens with that. I know that so far as he's signed with Eddie Hearn, I'm definitely hoping that the output with Matchroom will, keep him aligned with some, real activity, some real competition, because that's definitely needed. Now that he's got Karen out of the way, I definitely want to see Boots out there with Barrios, who has a fight coming up this weekend, I believe. Boots needs to hunt all of these dudes, okay? Brian Norman, Stanionis, all of the champs. Okay, he got to slay all of the kings of the division. So if undisputed was his goal, like he says it is, let's get it popping. Let's make it happen. I'm definitely down for him in whatever way that he decides to go. I'm on board. So I don't want to see any sidestepping from Matchroom. I don't want to see any, signs of, lingering or inactivity or anything like that. If Boots is ready, so am I. Okay. And then he can move up to 54 with the big dogs. Facts. So shout out to Boots for going in the trenches amid the storm and claiming his territory in a high action victory. Now, on to Keyshawn Davis. This young man had a hell of a performance last week, you guys. As you know, he scored a dominant victory against Lemos, got the second round knockout, and definitely shout out to Keyshawn for a spectacular performance. What? He was on smoke. Now, not much to recap here, because he got him up out of there ASAP, right? No chaser. But what I can say is that Keyshawn officially stamped his place as a hot topic among the 135 division, y'all. He made it plain that he is ready for the top king, okay? By calling out who? None other than Gervonta Abdul-Wahid Tank Davis. Yes, indeed. Keyshawn said, I want the light-skinned. Give me the light skin, right? Now, apparently, names like Andy Cruz or Mortala are too small of a snack for Key. Okay, coming off the high that he was coming off of. He said, I ain't mentioning their names. I want the king, right? He said, nah, I want the head of the king. Bring me Tank Davis and the light-skinned one. So this is the type of boss talk that I like to hear. Y'all know me, okay? Y'all know I pull up when the boss talk is on deck. I don't play with that shit. So for some reason, however, the preciousness, instead of getting hype about what is being said and all this fire that's going around, the damn preciousness reared its ugly head yet again here among some people, you guys. What is happening? What is going on with this preciousness in boxing? Who in their right mind can get upset at a fighter for calling for smoke? I just don't understand that. Can somebody explain that to me? How can you get upset that somebody is calling for the smoke? The logic does not logic here for me, you guys. Are we here to go fishing or are we here to claim turf? Did I miss something, you guys? What type of time are these so-called fans on that they now are upset that Keyshawn is talking his talk? Because I'm a fight fan and y'all already know what time Sugar Free is on, okay? The goddess Mars is always on demon time, okay? I don't play with that, baby. I go for the throat of my prey. I like to see People do the same thing. Lion energy, lioness energy. I don't play with my food. I demolish my food. I'm trying to eat. This is the type of energy we need in boxing. Why is this vanishing? Why is this energy vanishing in boxing, you guys? The preciousness is driving me crazy. Huh? Why have people been so precious about hearing Keyshawn call out Tank Davis? I know y'all came across it. Already. So, oh, he's not ready. Right? Oh, he's got to fight more competition. All these types of excuses. Oh, Tank is going to beat him anyway. I don't give a damn. I don't give a damn if Tank pummels that damn man. Throw Keyshawn in the pool. If he sinks, let him sink like a man. Right? It is what it is. This is precisely what he's supposed to be doing as somebody who is trying to make his mark and stamp his place as a top competitor within the division. That's what he's supposed to be doing. Let him talk his shit. What's the problem? Is he supposed to be holding hands with Tank Davis? Let the man eat. You know what I mean? I don't think that this fight is going to materialize next, right? But so far, so good. Let him build up to it. Let him stir the pot. Let him, make his claim and, make it obvious and clear to Tank Davis that he's out on a hunt. That's what he's supposed to be doing. Now, also among the preciousness that I found to be quite interesting was that Coach Kenny, I believe, made a post on Instagram, essentially basically telling Keyshawn that his focus should instead be on somebody like Andy Cruz, right? Now, the person, Coach Kenny, he labeled basically all of the accolades of Andy Cruz and said that Keyshawn is pretty much ducking the smoke by trying to bypass him for Tank. But my thing was, well, if you're going to take all this time to accredit Andy Cruz for all of his accolades and name all the things that he's done and how great of a fighter and amateur pedigree, this, that, and the third, if he is that good of a fighter, why didn't Tank fight him instead? Why come Tank didn't fight Andy Cruz instead of pulling up a 130-pounder in Lamont Roach? Huh? Nobody answered that question for me up until this point. Why didn't Tank fight him, if that's the case? Andy Cruz is top 10 in your division, bruh. Why you didn't fight him? So I get the shade that the, Team Tank was trying to throw there. I gets it. But what I don't get, is why you ain't eat that food. Why you left that food? Why you playing with that food? Team Tank ain't got no goddamn business calling Keyshawn a duck for bypassing somebody like Cruz if Tank literally ducked the top 10 of his own division just to fight Lamont Roach. Okay, that's a fight that nobody or their goddamn mama asked for, brother. I feel you, but no, right? But anyway, nonetheless, the performance from Keyshawn basically gave 135 a jolt and a much-needed stir-up because the 135 division, as we know, you guys, has been in an absolute coma for the majority of the year. You know what I mean? The only real shakeup was Tank Davis. Credit to, shout out to the king, of course, Tank. I rocks with the Tank, you know what I'm saying, with his fight with Frank Martin. But goddamn, did he digress with this Lamont Roach choice. Keyshawn just added a breath of fresh air to the 135 division that was dying the death of a dog all year. No cap. You know what I mean? So Keyshawn knocked some of the cobwebs off of the division and sounded an alarm, at least temporarily, as we can see. And now we see some signs of life at 135, finally. But it seems like how things are going to be proceeding in the coming months, unfortunately, the cobwebs will definitely be returning to the division until around February or March, because I believe that Shakur has his fight sometime in February. And Tank Davis, the alleged face of boxing, ain't fighting until goddamn March. What's happening, y'all? As if his fight with Lamont Roach isn't lackluster enough, now you're going to push back the fight from December to March? I'm really dumbfounded by the entire charade of this, you guys. Bad enough this fight is Now on top of the you're going to push back a fight that isn't even in demand? Hold up. This can't be real, y'all. Are you serious? March? I mean, you just can't make this stuff up, you guys. Okay? Real talk, I can't tell y'all one person who is in waiting for this particular fight. The anticipation for this fight is virtually non-existent, but whatever. Anyways, the face of boxing apparently doesn't seem to be carrying his crown too proficiently, in my opinion. But anyway, I digress. Moreover, y'all, while we're on the subject of Keyshawn and his victory, I've come across some rumblings of people saying off of the back of this fight that Keyshawn is a better fighter than Shakur Stevenson. What? They're saying that he somehow placed himself now via this performance last week above Shakur, right? And that this performance was a major signifier of Keyshawn's star power over that of Shakur Stevenson. Very interesting talk going around, you guys. What do you guys think about that? I'd love to know. Wow. Also circulating has been the push for Keyshawn and Core to fight each other, as we know. Now, we all are aware of the alleged brotherhood between them and all, right? People are now wanting to see the smoke between them come to a climax, come to a collision. And you know what? I am all for it. Shakur has been making friends, as we know, with pretty much his steepest competition in the damn division, okay? His two damn, biggest threats are supposedly his besties. How motherfucking convenient, all right? Now, this, of course, is not a new position that has been seen in boxing. Us diehards who are aware of it have long peeped game of the moves that Shakur made with the, putting his arm around Abdullah Mason and, of course, that of Keyshawn Davis. We've been watching and we've been peeping game to that. But it is a valid ask that the fans are looking into right now who may not have been aware or privy to that previously. They're like, yo, the friendship can be put aside. And they are absolutely not wrong. Why not? These motherfuckers are in the same goddamn weight class. Why are they being precious about each other? Speaking of preciousness, we got the preciousness happening with the fighters themselves, Keyshawn and Shakur. They got their own preciousness going on between them, right? Since Shakur is big bro, tell his ass to leave the division and move up if he doesn't want to fight for his place against Keyshawn. The fuck are you lingering around for if that's the case? If you're really precious to say, y'all, you don't understand, that's my bro, I can't fight him, I could never put hands on him and that type of thing. All right, take your ass up a goddamn division. Real talk, we've seen examples of actual brotherhood and, not wanting to smoke with each other. For example, the Charlos. Mo makes certain to move up and fight at a weight class above Mel in order to avoid that type of confrontation with his brother, right? So we've seen that dynamic at play already, right? They each claim their own territory in their own weight division. That's how it should be. What the fuck is Core doing at 135 if he's not trying to clean his plate? I just don't get that. You know what I mean? It doesn't make sense to me at all. All the brother shit is irrelevant. If you're saying that you want undisputed Shakur Stevenson in that division, what the hell are you going to do now that Keyshawn is saying that he wants to be champion one day soon? How can Core be undisputed if Keyshawn is holding a strap without taking his head? The math ain't mathin'. He going to have to see him if he's trying to be undisputed, right? So it seems to me that, also upon Keyshawn calling out Tank Davis, that there may be a bit of latent competition stirring up, at least slowly on the rise between them, because there is no way that Keyshawn can be champion, and there is no way that Shakur Stevenson can be undisputed, and them not face each other. Additionally, they cannot both be calling for Tank Davis at the same time. Who is going to be the one to slay the dragon? Huh? Who's going to take the crown of the king? They cannot both do it. Somebody has to be first. And if a hierarchy is respected between them, as it's alleged to be, you know what I'm saying? Shakur Stevenson has the big bro title. Of course, Keyshawn has the little bro. Was that out of place of lil bro to speak out of turn and claim the head of Tank Davis? Interesting stuff. Because Keyshawn most certainly bypassed Shakur and his status by calling for the head of Tank Davis. That's for sure. Okay. Actually, Keyshawn managed to do what Shakur has never done, which is to call Tank out directly after a match. Okay. This is probably what's also leading people to believe that Keyshawn and Tank would be a much better fight than that of Tank's fight with Shakur. right? Because it seems to be predicated along the notion that Keyshawn has a hunger right now that's pretty much been virtually non-existent within Shakur Stevenson. We haven't seen that type of flame or that type of heat from Shakur. He ain't been pushing, he ain't been pressing, and if he has, it's only been to the extent of Twitter. You know what I'm saying? We see him type fiercely 1,000 words a minute on Twitter, but as far as the action, he ain't been pushing for it. And unfortunately, because of this, Shakur Stevenson has been basically pushed aside by some of the public, right? He's pretty much been relegated to, the stature of boring. That label has been attributed to Shakur, right? Lackluster with his performances. So I don't know what's on the horizon for Shakur. That's a very big question. Everybody's in waiting to get the answer to. Can he change the trajectory? You know what I'm saying? Of this atmosphere by putting on spectacular performances moving forward? We will see. I believe that he's set, of course, to fight William Zepeda sometime in February. He's going to have to show up and he's going to have to show out if he intends to reclaim the boxing fans that he's lost, or the ones that he's kept in a shroud of doubt about him. And he's got to put his stamp as a king in the division. It just is what it is. That's something that is in his hands. He's got to take the wheel on that and assert some dominance to reclaim the graces of the boxing public. Things have definitely been shaky for him indeed. And now that Keyshawn is making all of this noise, many are wondering if this will cause a rivalry between them, or even a jealousy between these so-called brothers, right? And I guess time will tell for these two men, but it's definitely interesting. But also interesting this week was an unexpected post from, drumroll please, Deontay Wilder. Of all people. I was not expecting that, y'all. Did y'all see his post on Instagram? The King Wilder alluded to a return to the boxing ring, y'all. Well. I'm not even going to front. I was hype as hell to see that. You know what I mean? Now, Wilder, whether you ride with him or whether you don't ride with him, okay? The man has been a force and a flame of this sport that's kept the boxing world in feverish pitch for so many years on end, y'all. Y'all can't front. Wilder generated an energy that was unlike anything that we've seen at that particular time. And I definitely miss that energy, especially within the heavyweight division, because talking about a stale division, heavyweight division has definitely been, under a bit of a lull for some time. So to see that video just kind of sprung up, a gust of heat and curiosity. Especially considering, the overall tone of boxing. Real talk, boxing has been, low-key whack, y'all. It's been too many, stalling, too many pauses. It's barren. It seems like barren land in boxing, and everything is up in the air. And even networks are transitioning and not staying on. And it's just too much. So yes, I was excited to see the King talk about, getting up in the face of challenge and pushing through adversity no matter what. It definitely had me like, oh shit, you know what I mean? I like the little heat here and there. So, I know that there are people who doubt or question, his capabilities at this particular moment, considering his last two devastating defeats. And that's certainly understandable. And I can't say that I don't have the same concerns. But if the man still has the hunger in his belly to compete and, wants to get in there with the best of them, who am I to tell that man no? Only he knows when it's over. Now, in the clip, there was no particular mention of who he'd make a return to the ring against, right? Nor was there any mention of who may be on his list as prospects, right? But it was certainly made clear that he wanted to send the message that it ain't over and that he ain't done. What's going to happen? Only he knows, I guess, at this particular point, but we'll see. That's it for me, y'all. I'm on to the next. Peace.